Hello again, my DIY loving friends. I'm Sarah, and this is Medicated Housewife DIY, where crafting and mental health come together. Today, we're diving into the world of Dollar Tree tumbling tower blocks again. Get ready for some high-end hacks that are not only budget-friendly, but also a must-try for anyone looking to add a touch of elegance to their home. So what are you waiting for? Let's go DIY together. For this DIY, we're back with even more of the brown tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree. I'm using super glue wood glue to assemble these blocks into sets of 3 that are attached side by side. For this project, we will be making 25 of these sets of 3. So that's 75 of the blocks used for this, and later we will use an additional 6 blocks to complete the project. So our grand total of brown tumbling tower blocks used is 81 in total. But right now we are concentrating on the 25 sets of 3 blocks. Once the 25 sets of 3 blocks have dried, I used a sanding sponge to sand down all of them on all sides and edges and really distress that solid brown finish and make them more rustic and visually appealing. I like these blocks so much better this way. I'm assembling the sets of blocks in rows. There is 1 row of 5 sets of blocks in the middle, as you see here, and all 5 are in the vertical or portrait direction, with the blocks all going up and down. They will be attached at the corners to the next row of 4 sets of blocks on both sides, and both rows of 4 have the blocks facing the horizontal or landscape direction, as you see here. At any point, you can pause the video or replay it if you need to see the layout or if you are following along. So it's a center row of 5 sets of blocks flanked by a row of 4 sets of blocks on both sides, all attached at the corners. Next, I attach 2 more rows of 3 sets of blocks each row on both sides of the 4 set rows, turning their orientation back to vertical. So basically each row alternates in the direction that the blocks are going. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Next, we add our 2 set rows on both sides of the 3 set rows, flipping the orientation of the blocks again. They are going in the horizontal direction, alternating each of our rows as we've done with all the others. The final row is a single set on both sides of the 2 set rows, and I switch orientation again. And on that very last row on that right side, I forgot to switch orientation, so it's horizontal when it should be vertical, so we will have to fix that one later. I flipped the whole thing over, and on the back side, I want to reinforce all the corner connections to make the whole piece stronger. So I had these wood coffee stirrers that are really just like thin craft sticks. I'll link them for you below, but the craft sticks from Dollar Tree, you can split those in half and make them more narrow. That would work as well. I glue the sticks to the bottom of the piece so that all the corner connections are reinforced, but without being able to see the sticks when we turn it over. And then I allow them all to dry. I had decided to give the piece some height, so off camera, I had sanded 6 single blocks, bringing our total blocks used up to 81, as I said before. And then I glue a block on the ends of each of the 4 corners of my piece. And for that end set of 3 blocks on the right, that was going in the wrong direction. I had to break it off and reattach it, going in the correct direction. And because this is such a large piece, I decided to reinforce the middle with 2 single blocks in the center to help hold the whole thing up. And this is my gorgeous tumbling tower block. It's too big for a trivet, so let's call it a raised tray. I love the way this tray turned out. I love the design. I love the finish on the wood blocks. I'm just happy with everything. So easy to make and a gorgeous use of those brown tumbling tower blocks. 81 of them, to be exact. For this DIY, I've got this empty baby food jar, courtesy of Ellie Mae, my puppy that loves her beef baby food. And we are using 20 of these natural color tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree. I'm using this Beacon Clear Craft Glue, which I will link for you below, but you can use the Super Glue Wood Glue from Dollar Tree to do this as well. I'm going to glue the 20 tumbling tower blocks standing up around the entire jar. I start by dividing it into quarters with the first 4 tumbling tower blocks. Then placing additional blocks in between the original 4 blocks. And I continue filling in all the empty spaces with the rest of the 20 blocks until there's a continuous ring of standing tumbling tower blocks encircling the entire jar. While the blocks and jar dry, I mixed equal parts hot water and strong instant coffee to use as a stain for all my wood pieces. I've got these 4 large wood half rounds, which I will link for you below, and also this rectangular wood plaque from Dollar Tree. I start by staining the 4 wood half rounds with the instant coffee using a dry paper towel to wipe away the extra liquid. I love the sheer warm brown color that the instant coffee gives on wood surfaces. I decided to grab 2 of these wood rings I had in my stash, and I'll link them below, but you can get wood rings at Dollar Tree too. I stained both rings with the coffee as well, although I wasn't sure if I was going to use both of them, but I wanted them available anyway, just in case. I stained the wood plaque with the coffee stain as well. I wasn't sure which side of the plaque I wanted to use as the bottom or the top, so I just stained it all. And I just have to say, I really wish Dollar Tree would finish the edges of these wood pieces more than they do, instead of just leaving them so rough like this. I just had to say that. Public service message for today. Ultimately, I decided to use the top of the plaque as my bottom, so I glued the 4 half rounds onto the corners as feet for my plaque. Once the jar and blocks was somewhat dry, I stained those with the coffee stain too, starting with the top edges of the blocks and then the inner edge on those tops down to where they meet the glass jar. Moving on to stain the outside edge of the blocks and in between each of those blocks into all those little nooks and crannies as well. Then finally staining the bottom edges of the blocks and inside the edges where they meet the glass jar. I have this roll of self-adhesive faux leather, which is essentially leather-looking duct tape. I will link it for you below, but if you are lucky enough to find the faux leather ribbon at Dollar Tree, you could use that too. I'm not that lucky. I cut a piece of the faux leather and stick it to a piece of parchment paper, then cut that into strips and fold the strips in half evenly, like you see right here. I remove the parchment paper slowly and stick the 2 folded sides of the tape together, so I end up with a 2-sided little leather-looking strap. I made 2 of these for our purposes. I use scissors to trim the edges of the 2 leather straps to remove any excess white adhesive sides that happen to be visible. I'm going to use these straps as handles on my upside down wood plaque by using some hot glue to attach the ends of the straps on both sides of the plaque to hold them in place, as you see right here. I grabbed a couple of these Dollar Tree gold push pins and I use a wire cutter to carefully snip the sharp tack part off of them. And be careful because those little sharp pieces do fly when you snip them. I used the gold pieces left over and a dab of hot glue to cover the 4 edges of my leather straps to look like decorative gold stud embellishments. I decided to embellish the glass jar and wood blocks with the same leather and gold stud look. I cut a small piece of my faux leather strap and glued it to the middle of 4 of the wood blocks, tucking the ends of the leather strap around the first and the 4th block so that the edges of the strap were not visible. I add 2 more of the faux gold studs to either side of the leather strap just to complete the look. Lastly, I turn the jar over, and on the bottom side, I glue one of my wood rings to the bottom under the wood blocks. I ultimately decided not to use the second wood ring. And this is my wood and faux leather raised tray and mini vase or candle holder. And honestly, I love the look of this DIY. The coffee stained wood, the faux leather, the gold studs, everything comes together beautifully and creates this truly high-end looking classic but modern piece of decor that would work so well with so many different decor styles. Super easy and so worth the small amount of effort involved. The perfect Dollar Tree DIY. For this DIY, I'm using these packs of wood squares from Dollar Tree. There are 6 in a pack, and we are using 12 squares, so 2 full packs of these wood squares. I'm using this Starbond super glue gel, which I will link for you below because I need immediate hold for these wood squares. I'm creating a 3D square or cube shape with 4 of the squares glued together at the edges, as you see me doing here. I made them as even as I could. But honestly, true to form, when you deal with these wood blocks and shapes from Dollar Tree, they are almost never perfectly straight or shaped. So they did come together, but not every side of the cube shape lines up perfectly. But as I always say, it's crafting, not science. So let it go. Just let the expectation of perfection go. It's a good way to approach many, many things in life. I made a second cube shape with 4 more of the wood squares the exact same way, with the same not so perfect issues, but it worked out fine. I made a 3rd cube with 4 more wood squares, the same as the first 2 cubes, and I used some painter's tape to help hold the walls together while the glue fully set up. And we've used 12 of these wood squares to create these 3 square cubes. I glue 1 cube directly on top of another cube using some metal clamps to hold the edges together as the glue sets up. I glue the 3rd cube to the side of the top cube, also using more clamps to hold it in place as it dries. So I have this kind of triangular shape with the 3 cubes attached together. I grab one of these wood rectangles from a pack of rectangles from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to make it slightly shorter, sized to fit diagonally inside one of the cubes, sort of like a shelf inside it. I use a box cutter and metal ruler to trim the wood and sand it to smooth out that cut edge. I'm using a mixture of equal parts hot water and instant coffee as a stain to stain my wood pieces. I start by staining the rectangle I cut. I also stain some Tumbling Tower Blocks too, though I only end up using 2 of the blocks for this DIY. Then I turn my attention to the 3 wood cubes and I stain that whole piece with the coffee stain as well, starting with the whole inside, working my way to the outside of the cubes and also all the wood edges. And those edges didn't look all that great, even after they were stained, to be totally honest. I placed the wood rectangle into the top cube on a diagonal, and I glued 2 Tumbling Tower Blocks underneath it to help support it and hold it in place, so it looks like a small shelf. I grab a handful of wood coffee stirrers I had in my stash and actually dip them into the instant coffee to stain them, wiping off the excess coffee with a dry paper towel. I cut the coffee stir sticks to size and I glue them over all my edges facing front because, as I said, those edges didn't look that great as they were. I also covered the edge of the little mini shelf with a coffee stirrer as well. Off camera, I had a handful of these little half rounds I had coffee stained from a previous project, and I hot glued them to all the connections between the coffee stirrers on the edges of my 3 cubes to finish the look. And this is my mini wood shelf. I have been looking for a way to use those packs of wood squares from Dollar Tree, and this definitely fits the bill. I love the coffee stained wood look, and the finishing touches of the coffee stir sticks and the wood half rounds really give it a polished appearance. It is small, but it's perfect for some lightweight decor or greenery and a lovely addition to a living room or bedroom shelf or console table. Thanks for joining me on this creative journey. I hope these Dollar Tree Tumbling Tower Block hacks inspired you to unleash your inner designer. Elegance doesn't have to come with a hefty price tag. If you enjoyed these DIYs, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to Medicated Housewife DIY for more budget-friendly, crafty adventures. Let me know in the comments which DIY was your favorite and why. You know I love hearing from all of you. Thanks for watching. Until next time, remember that together we're making the world a more beautiful place, one DIY at a time.